This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the US. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes, facts, boots, and other stuff.
in this week's issue.
Spider-Man, The Death of Jean DeWolff. Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the non-murderous one, Mr. Mike.
Well, that's nice to know.
Yeah, it is. It'll go into what we're covering today.
I mean, I have
There's
had some blackouts.
murder we're about to get.
I had some blackouts, so I'm not totally sure,
but
I think I've never murdered anybody.
But from my understanding, those just involve you waking up then in a grocery store.
I got a buddy that he woke up one time in the parking lot of Montgomery Ward's, just laying on the ground.
Was he doing something before? Was he drinking?
Oh, I think there was a lot of alcohol involved.
Okay, that makes sense.
A lot of
but
alcohol
he
involved.
came to on.
And then I have another friend that I don't really talk to him anymore, but he woke up one morning and he had a extinguished cigarette on his tongue that he slept with in his mouth the entire night.
You have some strange friends.
I do.
I'm one of them.
Yes.
Again, welcome in.
Just get ready for the story because it's coming.
He's Mike. I'm Zach. Wait, what's my story?
That's what I'm saying. Who knows?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
The future is endless.
What we're going to do this week on our comic book podcast is usually where we'll cover a particular superhero or villain or storyline. We are going to cover a storyline, but there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Mike, today we are going to cover 4 issues of the Spectacular Spider-Man that were released back in 1985.
Okay.
But the reason we are doing so is because it is a story written by one Peter David. Peter Allen David, or Pad, as he was sometimes referred to, passed away back on...
People called him Pad?
Pad, P-A-D, yeah.
I don't like that.
Well, still. He's a phenomenal writer. Just not only that, I'll kind of give a little more kind of bio into Peter David, but he passed away back on the 24th. And so I was a bit saddened by that, obviously, but it made me think of then... I know that a lot of people know Peter David for a lot of different things. Peter David, not only like an Eisner Award winner, but he's known a lot for his 12-year run on the Hulk, which is unheard of to write a book for that long.
Yeah, that's insane.
Also, X Factor.
You talk about continuity, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
X Factor, Young Justice. He's also done a lot of stuff for Star Trek and for Babylon 5. He didn't write, and I'm not talking just comics, like he wrote comics and novels for these things, but he also wrote TV too and wrote movies. Like the man wrote a lot. I think he playfully at one point in time jokingly described himself as just a writer of stuff because he wrote so many different things and a lot of great stuff. And he wrote probably, I would consider this my favorite Spider-Man story, or at least the story that made me realize of like, damn, like you can have like a really good like Spider-Man story, but it's really important to me. And it's one of the first stories he did, and it's a Peter David story, and it's one that I thought we would cover.
Writing is a skill that I wish I had. Like it is one I'm very envious of. You are a good writer.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I just the people that can just punch that stuff out, it amazes me.
And that's the thing.
And I can have ideas and I can talk all day long, right? But writing it down, not so much.
And sometimes with these guys too, the amount that they're able to put out too of just like, and when they have just long storied, like my thing is I have ideas and I appreciate the kind words and I think that I'm a decent writer, but I feel like if I had to write a character for like, a 12-year run on the Hulk, eventually I'm going to have to be like, oh, what am I going to do next? But the fact that he was still able to come up, all right, I'm going to do that. Like just the mind is just fantastic there. Also, while we're talking about it, I have a Peter David Future Imperfect there.
Very nice.
Of the Hulk. But what we are talking about, as I said.
Where'd the Hulk's hair go?
That's Old Man Hulk. As you can see, he's kind of balding. Not to be confused with like Old Man Logan's Hulk, which is a completely different Hulk. That's not related to that one. But what we are going to cover is 4 issues from Spectacular Spider-Man. As I said, it ran from July of 1985 to October of 1985. Issues number 107 through 110, or a story arc that would become known as the Death of Jean DeWolff.
Okay.
Now, Jean DeWolff, here we go, scoot over a little bit more into frame, is the police commissioner of like New York, therefore, for Spider-Man. So essentially the easiest way for me to describe then Jean DeWolff for this is she is Spider-Man's Commissioner Gordon.
Okay.
Okay? She is the police captain, and he has had some run-ins with her throughout the time of like, working together on cases or there's different things.
This is from when?
85.
Okay.
She was a character, I think she was created in like 76 or 78.
Yeah. I know the name. Yeah. I've heard the name.
So she had been around for a couple of years before we got here, but she's also his Commissioner Gordon. I have the trade paperback here that they came out with.
She made Venom very sad.
Well, no, that's Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man's black suit. Now, the black suit came out around, I'm pretty sure the first one came out, or the first time I got around Secret Wars, if I'm trying to flex my comic book knowledge, which is around that same time. I could be off. I know that somebody will help correct me if I'm wrong there. But so he is in this. He's not Venom, but it is Spider-Man in the black suit. And there's nothing different about Spider-Man just being in the black suit. You just need to know that he's just going to look cool like that this entire time.
It's a great suit.
It's a great suit. The art's great. Let me get into a little bit of the art and stuff before we get into the story and break this down. Of course, Peter David wrote it all, but and I'm making sure I pull up the issue here. The penciler for all this, inker changed, but it was Rich Buckler, or Buckler, I'm pretty sure for the most part. This issue, Brett Breeding did the ink. Colorist was Bob Sharen. Letterer was Phil Phoenix. Editor was Jim Owsley. But we'll get into our first issue, and I love the covers of all these too and how it ties all together. I'm not going to break down this how you do this. I'm going to kind of at least try to quickly cover over this. There's more nuance and more deeper things you can get into that make this story a full whole. I'm just giving you like the basic story to break it down and to tell Mike why this is a damn good story and why it made me love Spider-Man even more. So the all new, the all daring, spectacular Spider-Man.
I do kind of feel like I remember that cover.
From 85. I'm not trying to. Where are you like?
I was.
This is
16.
before the comic book store.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
By a good like what?
Yeah, I was 16.
Okay.
I was 16 years old.
Were you still reading it this time though?
Probably a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Mine.
I had figured out that there are females in the world, and
I totally get that.
Also that there is wood grain alcohol. So yeah.
Oh, well, here's the thing you didn't know. You could drink that wood grain alcohol and still read these, though.
Yeah. It just didn't get very far.
I love the way this opens. I am going to read this opening some because I just love the way
his art. Now, I will say this.
So this isn't Peter David. This is Rich Buckley, or Buckley.
Okay, Buckley did the art.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what a track is? Like, you know those little booklets that churches used to hand out that had like a little comic book story in it?
No.
So there used to be these things called tracks, and they were about, I don't know, was it about?
Is it like a flip book?
3 inches by an inch? No, it was like
but you know, like the.
No. It had like comic art in it. They were always black and white, but it was always like, oh boy, I sure do love drugs. Oh wait, the devil's getting me. Oh, now I'm in hell. That was pretty much every track, right? And then on the back it would be like, don't want to be like Bob and go to hell, call me, that kind of thing. And then the church would stamp it with their thing.
Oh, they still sell them?
And they would hand them out. Yeah. Anyway, the art in this kind of reminds me of that track art.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You learned something new every
That was
day.
pretty deep, huh?
It was.
Yeah.
Let me go on this other side, so it looks like I'm looking at the comic when I look at the computer. But I do love the way that Peter David writes this intro. Mm-hmm. And so we get this just like a collage, like a montage. And it's very much, my father, the macho police inspector, never forgave my mother for spawning a girl. They split for good when I was 6 months old. The courts solemn like split custody as well. Dad got big brother Brian. Mom got me. Mom was thrilled. She had sworn off men in general and cops in particular. Her resolve lasted 4 years before she upped and married patrolman Carl Weatherby. Mom became Cecilia Weatherby. Dropping her old married name, I remained DeWolff, Jean DeWolff. I adored my stepdad, and the feeling was mutual. Carl loved being a cop, and he made me love it too. Of course, he never told me about Mom's long nights, like when he was out keeping the city safe. I don't know how she managed to live with it, jumping when the phone rang, essentially being scared of what she might hear and might come to find out.
Yeah.
I'll kind of paraphrase a little bit as we're getting into it. Afraid that she might get a phone call that her husband's
Being in
dead.
the family of a cop is tough. Yeah,
For sure.
It's hard.
And Jean keeps telling these, she's like, deep down, I suppose I want it to be Daddy's little girl. I want it to make him proud. Like the day I graduated the academy, talking about her stepdad now here, the academy, and earned my shield, Carl didn't even crack a smile. Yet I could tell he was really, he was flying high. Mom naturally cried in her bathroom, or in the bathroom for 2 days because, her daughter became a cop after she didn't want her to. And there's like, Dad kept pushing for me to keep going, keep getting more. I shot through the ranks, and I had a trunk full of commendations when I got my captaincy. He was still a sergeant, and I thought he'd have a stroke. Instead, when I told him, he didn't crack a smile, but I knew he was proud of me. And I also knew that smile would come because he was pushing me for a bigger achievement, essentially to be the first female police commissioner.
What I like the best about that entire panel is that it guest stars Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It does.
And the guy from Styx at the bottom.
The guy from Styx. Very true. And he's like, he was saving that smile for when I became the first female commissioner.
Yeah.
Like when it had been earned, he knew I needed to be tough and have that resolve until then.
What happened to her dad?
He's just not talked about.
Okay.
I just think he kind of, but his stepdad.
Yeah.
He wanted me to be the first woman police commissioner. I'll get that smile out of him yet. What's that pounding at my door in my head? Oh, I should tell you, Mike. I've read the physical copy and I completely forgot that I had it. Here it is. So you can actually.
Oh.
Mike likes to flip along. Yeah. And see it a bit better. And she goes, I'll get the smile out of him yet. But what's that pounding at my door? And you see the thump from the door. And I wonder why I feel so relaxed. And I wonder why I was just thinking about all my life just now. And you see the cops just kick through the door, and the landlord's complaining about the smell, and the cops come in Captain, oh no, call in, come on, we got to call it in and make sure that they send in people with some strong stomachs. And you see Captain Jean DeWolff then just in a pool there on the floor.
Yeah.
I love this intro so much because you don't know what you're getting into to start off. Granted, it's spoiled a little bit in the collection because we know this is the Death of Jean DeWolff. But when you pick up the cover, this is what I just love. It's just the shock of the year, and you know that somebody's died.
Yeah, because all it says is someone killed a woman close to me.
Exactly.
That's all it said.
But
Yeah, it didn't
I
say who it
love
was.
the way he sets up the story. It's this whole, you get an intro of who Jean DeWolff is, and it's her whole backstory, and it's just but I wonder, wait, what's that thud on my door, which is them kicking down the door? And I wonder why I was just thinking about my life just now. It's the old trope of your life flashing before your eyes.
Right.
And we get that. And it's the perfect setup of, well, that's why all that happened because there she is now dead. So our story is kicked off with the death of Police Commissioner Jean DeWolff.
Look, it's easy reader.
Is it? Oh, it is easy reader back there. Spider-Man. We're introduced to another character here, a guy by the name of Mr. Popcheck. He's Ernie. Is his name. He lives in
Ernie Popcheck.
Ernie Popcheck. He lives in Aunt May's. I don't remember. It's a house that they live in,
Closet.
Where is this at? He says it. And I just want to get it right. I want to make sure I don't get it wrong because he introduces to him and he realizes that he's May's nephew, and that I guess he stays. I know later on, May helps work at a community center and stuff, and I think the guy stays there at this community center, this. This I don't want to call it a halfway house, but a house for people, to stay and to kind of get their low income housing or things like that. May kind of always helps the less fortunate, and I feel like it's a housing situation like that.
Right.
This guy stays in, but he's coming to town to essentially cash his Social Security check, do a little shopping, get some books, and then go back, leave the city to go back to the house. Or where they stay with Aunt May, and Peter tells him to be careful, and he's jumped for his money. All of it. The crooks get away.
Well, he is counting his money right there on the street.
He is kind of.
Yeah.
He's getting
Not
away. Peter turns into Spider-Man and kind of leaves after the crooks, and he catches them all before they're able to get away.
Steven Tyler.
This is Steven Tyler.
See that?
He catches them all and leaves them for the cops. Right? He beats up the main guy pretty good, but obviously he feels a bit personal about this because he knows Ernie. right? It's one of, like, he's met Ernie before.
Yeah.
So there's a little more, personal just touch to this. But he stops him for the cops. And, like, the main guy of the robbers who was just there, he's like, he used excessive force. And the cops are like, oh, funny, no witnesses, huh? I guess, it's just your word against Spidey's. But, we'll go ahead and take him in, Spidey. Like, thanks for catching him.
Yeah.
But while they're there, one of them goes, by the way, did you hear about, Captain DeWolff?
Mm-hmm.
And Spider's like, oh, is this the joke about Jean and the Miami Dolphins? Like, yeah,
I don't understand that. But
Huh?
I don't understand.
I don't
that,
understand it
okay.
either. I think it's just one, like, he's saying, like, he's like, oh, yeah, no, I've heard. Is it that, like, that one time that she,
Yeah. Sure.
And the cop stops. He's like, no, she's dead. Like, it's not a. And Spider-Man's kind of caught off guard by this. Because he's like, oh, who
He
did
says,
it?
"Oh crud."
He does. He says, oh, crud. Well, he's still trying to be like his Peter Parker.
Sure.
But he's like thrown off, and he's like, well, do you know anything, like anybody who would have any leads or who did it? And like, nope, whoever it is just some godless sicko. Like, we hate it, but like, we have no leads. We get these intercuts then of this guy coming to a church where it looks like he is about to confess. He's going to ask where the confessional is. The priest leads him that way, or sends him to where it is, and he's going to confess. And then we get that cut back to the Bugle, or the Daily Bugle, or Now Magazine. I think it is.
The
I don't
Super
think
Bugle.
I think it is the Bugle still, but they also do Now Magazine because he referenced it. But where we see our lovely reporter J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie. What is Robbie's last name? Why do I always forget?
Is there anybody better to play J. Jonah Jameson?
Then go ahead. You were going to say his name.
Yeah. And now I can't remember his name.
J.K.
Whiplash.
Simmons?
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. He is.
Robbie Robertson. There you go.
I mean, he is him.
Oh, for sure.
It's just, there's no doubt.
No, he's great. Whether even if it's like the flat top or shaved head, like what he just has it so well.
Yeah. No, you 100% believe that that's J. Jonah Jameson.
But what we get there in like they're talking about the headline, and J. Jonah Jameson brings up like, I hate making headlines like this, like about a police captain getting murdered in like cold blood, and like she was a fine officer too. And he's like, Robbie then goes like, I always thought you said you didn't like her. The charm of an ice cube tray is what you said. And he's like, for pity's sake, Robbie, like, I didn't like JFK either. That doesn't mean that like, someone doesn't deserve to get killed like that. He's making a point. And Robbie's like, I get it, but would you say the same? He brings up a great point. He's like,
Sure.
then would you say the same thing about Spider-Man? Like, you're obviously always going on and on, like banging that drum about how big of a criminal he is.
Right.
Would you feel the same way? And he's like, you're being morbid, Robbie. And he's like, it's a morbid news day, Jonah. Like, I'm going to ask you this. And he's like, well, Hitler deserved to die, and so do assassins, and cop killers do. Some like that. Whatever. Spider-Man, he's not one of those. Like, Jonah will admit that to Robbie. And he's like, Jonah, that might be the nicest thing you ever said about Spider-Man. He's like, whatever, just be quiet. And they just leave to go about their day. I just like that little kind of like conversation between the two.
Yeah.
Spider-Man shows up at the police station.
I don't think Jameson is an idiot.
No, he's not.
I mean, he's a smart guy. He always looking for a headline.
Misinformed.
Yeah.
Spider-Man shows up at the police station, and he hunts down, and he's like, hey, who's running the DeWolff case? And they tell him that it is Stan Carter. Detective Stan Carter's been given the job. He just left. He drives like a red car. You'll be able to hunt him down if you leave quick enough. So Spidey does, and he's like, he kind of tries not to spook him, and he still leans over the side of the window, and he's like, hey, are you Detective Carter? And he's like, yeah, who's asking? And he essentially is like, you just going to hang out up there? Like, you're going to come in my car for us to talk?
Yeah.
Because he's like, and he's sitting there just asking for like, is there any suspects? And he goes, oh, between you and me, about, a couple million and two, I guess. Like,
Looks
we don't have
Starsky and Hutch car.
A little bit. He's like, we don't have any leads or anything like that. And he's like, why do you want to play detective so bad, Spider-Man? And he goes, well, like, Jean was like, she was a good woman. Like, she meant well. Like, I liked her. Like, I liked what she meant, what she represented. She helped me out with a lot of things. Like, like this one kind of hits a little close to home. And we find out that Stan obviously feels the same thing. I do like this line too while they're driving. And he goes, Stan says, actually, because Spider-Man tells him, I'm surprised you don't think that it's me. And Stan tells him, actually, costume folks like you don't really concern me all that much. Obvious nuts I don't worry about.
Yeah.
It's the quite unobvious nuts that you have to watch. It's kind of what he tells them as they drive through. And they share the sentiment of like, because Stan also tells like, we like Jean. and thought she tried not to, or and though she tried not to show it, she liked us. Like, she rarely smiled, but we knew. You know, it's a shame a woman that striking never smiling. And she even liked you, Spider-Man. Like, he's like, this means, like, he's just telling like, this is an important case for us. It's how big she means.
Right, sure.
Exactly. And that's where Spider-Man's like, you know, well, I didn't realize that. Like,
She was
you know,
the police chief?
I liked her too.
Is that what she was?
She's the captain.
She was the captain. Okay.
She goes, and that's where he's like, I liked her too. Then we introduce Daredevil, who's also in this story.
Hey, Daredevil, how are you?
So Daredevil's swinging through. They give you a little introduce to Daredevil. He attaches himself to a helicopter and he flies to court. Because what Matt Murdock is there to do, you know Matt Murdock and Daredevil.
Yeah.
What Matt Murdock is there to do is he is representing.
He's a law boy.
He is. He's doing some pro bono work, like Matt Murdock's known to do. And he is representing the muggers that Spider-Man caught.
Okay.
And Ernie and Aunt May and Peter are there. And Matt just essentially tells him, I think the $500 like bill is a little bit too high. They're just already assuming they're innocent. Like, you have to assume, like, they've done essentially. Matt Murdock does some lawyering and makes some good points of like, you can't just assume guilt. The set, like, you know, if they are charged with this bail, like if they don't, like, they're gonna have to charge, you know, this jail time if you set this bail, probably no matter what. And they all have clean sentences before, or clean records before this. Like, he's lawyering his best.
Sure.
He gets it where
He lawyers hard.
he does lawyer hard. And it says, thank you, counselors. Defendants are, he ends up getting them released on their own recognizance. But tells them that, you know, remind them the failure to show up for their other court dates will lead to, you know, unpleasant penalties and all this. And they're celebrating like a little bit. And Peter is obviously pissed.
Yeah.
Because he just saw them they robbed Ernie and he hunted them down and caught them. And now they're being let free. And Peter lets Matt Murdock kind of like have an earful. He goes, it's guys like you who keeps things safe for slime. How can you face yourself in the mirror each morning?
Whoops.
And, well, Daredevil, he goes, that heartbeat, that voice, it's Spider-Man. But he can't, like, that's the thing about Daredevil, though, too. But Matt tells him it's a challenge. Like, he's honest. He's like, it's tough. And Aunt May, being good old Aunt May, goes, Peter Parker, shame on you. And that's where Peter goes,
the blind thing.
oh, the blind thing. Here's the thing, too. There's a couple lines, and I know it's written in a different time, but it's just funny to me. Because there are moments where you feel like Spider-Man was like in the wrong, which is nice to feel. Not like a lot in the wrong, but he does something and you're kind of like...
Well, you also got to remember he's like in his 20s.
Exactly.
You know, at this point.
But at the same time, when he does that, you realize why he does that, and he's justified in doing it, too. So it's a very nice way. And he's like, sorry. And then like he apologizes to Murdock and they leave. Well, Matt goes to visit the judge after the case and he tells him like, you know, Horace, back in college you used to impress on us students that, you know, everyone had to be treated equally under the law and that everyone deserves the best efforts we can give them. And he goes, and I believe that too, but why do I feel like 20 pounds of boiled inner tube? Like, he's just kind of letting him know, like, I'm tired, you know, like, I know that everybody has a fair shake. I just get tired of always just representing those. And he's like, he tells him, because you don't like your current clientele very much, Matthew. You hate getting your hands dirty. And he's like telling him, maybe if you did get your hands dirty, you'd feel a little bit different. Anyway, give me just a second. Let me use the bathroom and then we'll get ready. They're going to lunch afterwards.
I don't understand what the word broid is.
Broiled, I thought it was.
It says B-R-O-I-E-D.
Oh, I thought it was broiled.
Yeah, it seems like it ought to be, but the word is broid.
Oh.
Which is weird.
It is weird.
Never heard that word.
So the judge tells him anyway that I'm going to go use the bathroom real quick and then we'll like get together for lunch.
Sure.
Well, Matthew decides that he's going to use this time to check out the judge's chambers because his radar sense, his Daredevil powers, made him feel that somebody was in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. And when he walked in and he was kind of in around getting his, you know, sonar senses, and he could tell one person, bulky male, holding a thin object, a shotgun. And about that time, he's like, his pulse is racing wildly. I think he might be on drugs or something. And he just yells out. He's like, who is there? Like, he plays it like he can tell somebody's in there. And the guy goes, I am the Sin Eater and you are. And he just goes, I'm blind.
Eater.
I'm blind. Like, don't hurt me.
Yeah.
And then he goes, that's bad. Are you a lawyer? And Matt goes, yes. And then Matt thinks immediately, wrong answer. His pulse is getting wilder. And he goes, lawyer, eh? That's worse. And about that time, Sin Eater shoots his shotgun.
Sin Eater.
Sin Eater. And well, there's a reasoning behind, and we get into all this. And so Daredevil like dives out of the way, uses his billy club in the like you would see. I know you haven't watched the TV show yet, but there are scenes in it where he does, especially in the first one of the Born Again, and I love it, where he like throws it off things and it like ding 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 and like hits a guy out still, and that's essentially what we have here. Matt turns his cane into a billy club and knocks the Sin Eater out, and he's about to come over the desk to attack him, and I love the way that it closes this out, this first issue. As he's about to pounce, the judge comes in and goes, "Oh," and he goes, "One moment in time frozen for Matt Murdock." In that moment, Matt could have leaped forward, basically taking out the gun wielder and seriously jeopardized his identity. In that moment, Matt was astonished as an old friend who was so dignified immediately dropped to his knees and groveled for mercy.
Yeah.
The face of Matt Murdock froze only for a moment in surprise and indecision. A moment too long. And it just ends with the face of Sin Eater and a blam. And that's the end of that first issue.
Yeah, that's quite an ending there.
It is quite an ending.
Yeah.
So then our story continues.
This is not funny at all.
No. I'm telling you, it's not. This is gonna be serious.
Just kidding.
But it's really good. I'm sorry.
No. You're all good. You're all good.
This made me. I again, and I'm not giving you all the dialogue, which is where Peter David shines in this a lot too. Not only is he known for being so like witty, he writes so well. So if you pick up, I can tell you, you're. Not
he uses words like broid.
Exactly. But he's written so much great stuff, and this is just what does it for me. We get a flashback. They do these to start this issue, and it's like Matt meeting the judge like in law class, like the first time he was meeting him after like a lecture he gave, and the judge is kind of telling him like, the problem is like you didn't speak up when you thought something, you should have done it then instead of coming to me to class afterwards. And then we cut back to the like present, but it's like the first time they met. He's like, "Hey, Matt Murdock, oh Judge Horace, whatever." And then we see the judge dead there on the floor. You do bring it up. There is Charles Bronson. We do get a Charles Bronson in there. You'll see when you get to him.
You get Charles Bronson?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is.
It's just a random.
Why in the hell is Charles Bronson there?
I think because...
he's reading the thing about vigilantism. I get it.
And I think it's because of Death Wish? Was those the movies that he did?
Yeah, it was Death Wish. He was in 143 of them.
And I honestly think that it's just there's like I think there's a lot of like... You'll see when we get to some of it.
I got you.
So I could be wrong on this, but Matt Murdock's just sitting there like waiting with the body for the police to show up, and he's like, "I'll get him, Horace. Like I promise you, I'll
is
get whoever did
85?
this." 85.
Yeah, Death Wish 3 came out that year.
Okay, so there's a little tie, not like direct tie-ins, but I think like some of the vigilantism in that ties in with this.
Well, hell, you could tie vigilantism into
true.
any superhero for the most part.
So Sin Eater, Ernie and Aunt May and Peter are leaving the courtroom still, obviously.
Glad to see Ernie's still upright.
He is.
Yeah.
He's just got that broken arm from the beating earlier, from the mugging, but he's still kind of upset. He's just like, "I can't believe that judge let those punks who mugged me go without bail. There's no way to treat a veteran. I was wounded for my country." He's like, "I still have the gun I took off a German soldier. I think one of those punks was Germans. Maybe that judge was a Nazi sympathizer." You think maybe like he's just trying to find like why he can't. And
it's always the thing, man. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and it's a tough way to live.
It is
in something like this because you know who did it, you know when they did it, you saw them do it.
Well, and that's the beauty of this story is I think that it gives you both arguments and shows you why both of them are valid through the whole thing. So, and he's like, "Judge Rosenthal doesn't sound like that, Mr. P. Like, I know like you're trying to find, but I don't think that's the case."
No, I don't think Rosenthal is a Nazi name.
Yeah, and he goes, "In that case, I just don't understand. I tell you, it just keep like how we can't keep the street safe anymore." And right when he says that, we're then caught to Sin Eater. Obviously, was trying to leave the judge's chambers, and he left, and he's running out in the streets.
Right.
And Spider-Man's spider senses are tingling, and he realizes that he's there. Yeah. And so he hunts him down. And he's like, "Okay." I do like the jokes there. He's, "Okay, playmate, let's relax. I know how you feel." And he goes, "It's a real bummer getting lost on your way to the ski slopes. So why don't you put the gun down before?" And he looks at him and he goes, "Down, sinner? I'll put you down." And like he turns the shoot at Spider-Man, and Spider-Man leaps out of the way. And one of the things that I like this too that you don't think about is Spider-Man leaping out of the way. You get speed troubles behind him. Help us. Oh, no.
Yeah.
And there's collateral damage behind Spider-Man or people that have been hit from this, you would think the spray of a shotgun.
Right.
And there's like, Spider-Man, help us. He won't help us. He's as bad as the other one.
That's where the cover of this one pays off.
Yes, because the cover talks about...
Yeah, the cover is basically him saying, I leaped out of the way, but now he's mowing down the crowd.
And that's genius, too, because that scene does not happen in here, but it ties into the story, too.
It kind of does, but yeah.
I mean, it's just nice when that, because sometimes you'll see covers that have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, thanks, old-ass comics.
Yeah, anyway, Spider-Man leaps over, and he uses his web to try to, like, pull the gun away from Sin Eater. But Sin Eater is a tough pill for Spider-Man to swallow, and he can't get a one-up on him, as Sin Eater is kind of beating the shit out of Spider-Man.
Right. Sin Eater's a big dude.
He is. But eventually Spider-Man is able to not, pull his punches and get a nice hit in there. And he's going up to kind of like apprehend him. And he goes, had enough, Slugger? Or he goes, or do I have to bruise you another? Wait, next to the gavel on your belt, a badge Stan told me. I forgot to tell you that. He did say that Jean's badge was missing.
Right.
Yep. And the gavel's missing, which belonged to the judge now. He's taking trophies.
There's a lot of stuff to carry around.
There is. But he goes, Stan told me Jean's badge was missing. You killed Jean DeWolff.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I killed her.
The guy's just like, yep.
And a judge.
Yep.
And now you. And he just stands up and hits him with the butt of the shotgun to the face. And he's like, got to pull myself together. And he can't. And Sin Eater just starts beating him with the gun again to the point where it does bend the shotgun. And he's like, the Sin Eater has brought blood to another sinner. Praise the Lord. You think my job's easy being responsible for the sinners? It's not, is what he's like telling him as he's beating him there. And he goes, my job is impossible and never ending. And he's like, no, your job's finished now. And the two of them are fighting back and forth. And Spider-Man notices, though, through everything that Aunt May is down, or she's been hit, but she's on the ground. Mm-hmm. And he turns to go deal with her. And Sin Eater uses that turn to run away and escape.
Calls him a hairball.
He does call him a hairball.
Hold it, hairball.
Spider-Man, in a last-ditch effort, tries to throw a spider tracker on him, but he notices it. Sin Eater notices it and just knocks it off and keeps running. Spider-Man goes back and checks and notices that Ernie and Aunt May are okay after all. But Sin Eater's gotten away. Daredevil?
He says something about his web, his shooter's not working, his web shooters. So this is a Spider-Man that uses canisters.
It's not. So that's what it is. If we go back a little bit, and I'm showing you there, he went to block the shotgun.
Yeah. He said he hit him.
And I think when he hit, don't you like this picture? And I think when he hit, I'm just making it like that.
He
to
does
block
say
it.
he must have trashed my shooters with that gun.
Yeah. And I think that's where it is. Anyway, Sin Eater escapes. And Daredevil's too late to help, but I do love we get kind of Sin Eater in like a jacket with the mask still on the bus going by. Like he's just escaped Daredevil, but I do love the like he's still managing to get by all of them. Well, Spider-Man goes back to the police station and he bursts through the door to see Stan there, and he's like, "We got to talk." And Stan's like, "Calm down." He's like, "No. I've been waiting not you. Like I've been waiting on this ballistics report all day." Right. It's definite. Okay, the weapon that killed the judge yesterday was the same one that used to kill Jean. All right, fancy that. All right, thanks, Frank. Got to go. Spider-Man's here. And he like hangs up the phone. And
thanks, Frank. Got to go. Spider-Man's here. Bye.
Yeah. And Spider-Man just tells him like, "Yeah, I can verify the Sin Eater's our guy."
I don't know. He hangs around way too much. I don't know. He's tough to talk to. He can't really hold a conversation around. I don't know. I got to go.
No, I'm not going to ask him if
Nope, not going to do that. Nope.
No, I don't want him here. Okay, bye, Frank. Hey!
I don't know what religion he is. I have no idea. I'm looking. I didn't see it.
The bulge is not bulging enough. So, but Stan asks him. He's like,
uh-oh.
He tells him, or Spider-Man tells him, like, he had, Jean's badge on his belt right next to the judge's gavel.
Yeah.
And Stan's like, he seems like he, it's kind of a bit tough for you. You pick up a black eye underneath there. And, like, Spider-Man's like, come on. And he's like, I'm just telling you, you want to be a detective, like, do some detective work.
This guy loves his cigarettes, doesn't he?
He does love his cigarettes. Yeah. And he's like, where he goes, and he kind of wants to throw him, like, the paper's like, it's your headache now if you want to, like, deal with him. He's like, knock it off, Stan. You know what I mean. I'm just trying to help. And he's like, all right, well then, if you want to help, like, everybody around. All right, where he goes, besides, you feel like a schmuck because he got away. Oh, that's what he tells Like, and Stan's trying to make Spider-Man feel a little bit better. He's like, you want to help? Here, take the file. You can be the detective then if you want to do it so bad. Spider-Man's like, no, I'm just trying to help. I know there's, no love lost between me and the NYPD, but like, I just want to find the guy who did this. And he's like, I know, and you just feel bad right now because you let the killer go. And you missed it. He goes, my major witness to the shootings is a blind guy because Matt Murdock was the only one there.
This is a procedural.
It is.
Is what this is. This is like Law and Order, but with Spider-Man in it.
It is.
Yeah.
And he tells him, and I doubt that, that the cited could have been much more use to me anyway.
Yeah.
He goes, do you know what a Sin Eater is, though, Spider-Man? And that's why we get why he calls himself Sin Eater. And he's like, can't say that I do. And so Stan tells him, well, in some superstitious societies.
Because it's this guy, Nick Fury.
Yeah, it's Nick Fury. This is old Nick Fury before he looks like Sam Jackson.
True.
Do you know the story about? I'll tell you the story behind when we get that, or
right.
the story that I know about that. And he goes, but the captain tells him in some superstitions, like and like in the Ozarks, what they do is a man comes out and his job is, like when somebody's deceased, they laid out fruits or other edibles on their chest. And there's a guy who comes out and his only job is to eat those fruits, which represent the sins of the deceased.
Yeah, that's gross.
Once he eats them, the deceased soul is cleansed and it's ready to go into heaven, courtesy of the Sin Eater. Say now, he goes, some guys have their picture. Oh, that Spider-Man goes, that's sick. And he's like, well, except our guy, he goes, is killing people and then takes tokens of their victims, of the victims, the authority with him, since these items to be associated with their sins. So him eating their sins is him, keeping.
Yeah, he's cleansing the earth, kind of thing.
That's when Spider-Man goes, yeah, you have a picture of Nick Fury, and Stan lets him know, I worked at S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit before I came here to work.
That is weird. Does that pay off?
It does pay off.
Okay, all right.
But the reason that he looks like that, the story I've always heard, and it could be right, it could be wrong. I haven't looked into this more, but there was like a made-for-TV Nick Fury movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember who played Nick Fury?
It was David Hasselhoff.
It was. Yeah. And I don't know
Which
necessarily.
honestly, not a bad pick for that. If you're going by that picture right there, that is not bad at all.
But I don't think that they wanted a David Hasselhoff necessarily to play him. So when they did,
was that after he ate the cheeseburger off the floor while he was drunk talking to his daughter?
No, it might have been before that. But I think when they did the Marvel Knights.
You've seen that video, right?
Yes, I have.
Oh, my God.
I think when they did Marvel Knights, the line is when they redid it. And they wanted somebody to be like cool and edgy, like a Sam Jackson. So there you go.
They said, I tell you what, why don't you take this and flip it on its head and get the exact opposite of this guy?
Yeah. Well, it works, though. He makes a great.
Oh, he makes a great one, yeah.
So what we do is we get another cut back to that church.
More church.
And there's a priest there. Yes. And it's, he goes, I want to confess again. It's the same guy from earlier. And he goes, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I was here the other day. I still hear voices, Father. Voices in the night. So Spider-Man goes to check out Jean's apartment. And when she Captain DeWolff. And while he checks it, he's digging through her stuff and notices that she has clippings of like good stories of him, not ones that she's mentioning, just good deeds that he's done. And then a picture of the two of them together. Like she actually really kind of liked Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And like this hits him and he's like, I gotta find who this killer is.
Why didn't she say something?
Yeah, exactly. And it just increases that personal bond that he's finding of wanting to hunt her killer down.
If we're talking about her liking Spider-Man, that picture does not prove that.
No, it doesn't.
They look like they were forced to be in that photo.
It looks like they're guerrilla warfare together.
Having a great time at guerrilla warfare camp.
Yeah. We get the funerals of both Jean and of the judge.
Right.
And while Matt's there at the funeral,
I don't know if you know anything about this or not, but like 1985, 86, people were trying to save money on coffins, so they would bury a lot of people together.
Really?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I was like,
not at all.
Okay. Anyway,
I have told you my way that we fix the funeral industry, though, right?
How's that?
I have two moves to fix the funeral industry, which we all know is broken.
Yeah.
I don't know how we know that, but
I've been told.
You take all the old banks.
Yeah.
Right? I've told you about this before, where you have the coffins. So basically, if you use the drive-through at the old bank, with a foomp tube.
Yeah.
Right? You put the coffin, so you put the person on display in the window where you'd normally see the teller. You can drive through up to one of those things and foomp, put some flowers in, or foomp, put whatever you need in. It's a drive-through funeral, right?
Okay.
And then what you do?
Well, the flowers, like with the air, kind of like
I
wilt
don't
the
know.
flowers.
We'll take care of that when we get
So
there.
it might have to go slowly. So it might just be.
Foom. Yeah, something like that. Or we could do digital flowers. I sent a bunch of flowers. And then when you bury people, what you really do is what we need to start doing is burying them vertically instead of horizontally. We would save a ton of space.
That kind of is true.
It makes sense, right? You just go foomp right there, yeah.
Well, I guess, or cremation. That's also another option.
Cremation's great, but a lot of people and a lot of religions require that you're buried in the ground.
That's true, too.
But I don't know that any of them say you have to be buried horizontally.
I think there is some that you have to.
Well, then they're wrong. No, I don't know.
Wow. Anyway, at these funeral, Matt's at the judge's funeral, and he notices that he hears the heartbeat. It's slower, but it's the same heartbeat of Sin Eater.
Of the killer?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're at the funeral, and he's like,
it's that dude with the beard right there. He's sketchy as hell.
I need to let down. He goes, I let you down last time, Horace, but not again. He's like, I gotta, should I say something? He's like, no, nobody will believe me. As they're sitting there and they're all leaving.
Matt Murdock in this bottom panel kind of looks like he produces porn.
That one there?
Like where? No, keep they're right there. The bottom one.
Yeah,
it looks like Robert Redford is in Boogie Nights.
A little
That's
bit.
what it looks like.
But as everybody's getting ready to leave, we find out that J. Jonah Jameson is like leaving to head to a thing in Florida.
Cop convention.
Him and Ned lead. So his wife Marla and Betty, who works at the Bugle, are staying at Jonah's house until he and Ned get back.
Okay.
Stan's there, and I didn't. While they were there, I enjoyed this. So while the funeral's breaking up, there was a priest that shows up earlier in the story at the Bugle, who's come from Atlanta, who had to deal with a similar sort of situation of where there were some, a terrible kind of, I don't remember what it was, but there was like another like child killings or something really bad, right?
Sure,
that he had to come from, had to deal with like things with the police there. It said, but he comes in and he's very much like, while he's at the funeral, he's talking to somebody, and the priest says, furthermore, when the victims are black, particularly like lower income, you can't set any police attention at all. He's talking about how I'm sorry that I hate that all of this is here, but like, my time in Atlanta proves that the police can't handle some of the simplest investigations sometimes of hunting this down. Like, he is kind of just.
Thank God we fixed all that since '85.
I know, but the priest is making some. He's like, nothing is solved unless the answer is dropped into. He's kind of like anti-police with this, and Stan's overhearing this.
One of the things I've learned by just doing this job that I do.
Yeah.
True crime, huge industry as far as podcasts and things like that go. But boy, do they not cover black, women, lower income. If you're white and blonde, boy, you're getting all the coverage in the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's some very good points in that.
Yeah.
But the detective Stan Carter's overhearing this with one of the other officers, and he goes, so that's Reverend Jackson Tolliver. A friend of mine in Atlanta PD, Herb, said he is heading our way. I wonder if the Sin Eater does request.
Yeesh.
And the other cop goes, bad joke, Stan.
Yeah.
Very bad joke.
That was a little rough.
And then Stan goes, laugh so you don't cry, Arnie. Just trying to show we're dealing with, a dead captain and I like the moment there of like both sides of it.
Yeah, sure.
And Matt finally decides.
Well, it's a real type conversation.
It
is what it is.
Very
right?
much so.
It's
and that's to showcase
dialogue.
how good of a writer Peter David was.
It's actual dialogue.
And because this is the thing. This is one of his first superhero stories that he did.
Sin Eater wear glasses? Does Sin Eater wear glasses?
Who?
Sin Eater?
No.
Okay.
He hasn't in the when his mask. So he goes.
Wait, he has what?
Like he hasn't over his mask. He's just worn the mask. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just saying, there's a panel in here. It looks like he's wearing glasses.
No, I think it's just the shadow of them.
Okay. All right.
So Matt decides I should finally say something. He goes, hey, wait, everybody, come back. The killer's here. We've got to stop. Oh, it's too late. I should have said something earlier. Like he realizes that he waited too long.
Dumbass, you should have.
We get a flashback to that church that we have seen with the priest that we saw earlier at the funeral.
I can't even imagine being blind. That's God. Oh.
And so
that has to be so hard. Like, especially at a place like that. Like, there's just open holes in the ground.
Well,
I don't mean that bad. I'm just saying,
he has his.
I understand he has his cane and everything, and this guy I don't feel as bad for because he's got these heightened senses and he's Mr. Jiu-Jitsu or whatever. But like, can you imagine like just a manhole?
Yeah.
Somebody left open, or just a big lump in the sidewalk, you know?
No,
I mean, you
for sure.
can't, there's no way that cane catches everything.
No, you can't. And
Yeah.
that has to be kind of scary there.
Oh, boy.
But we flash back to
Frightening.
the church with the priest that we saw earlier there.
Yeah.
And he's going to confession, and he's in the booth for confession, and he goes, do you wish to take confession? And you just see, Father, I have a very difficult task ahead of me. And you see Senator Eater's face in the confession. I have chosen a mission in life, though sometimes I think it has chosen me. That was me trying to clear my throat.
Sure.
And the priest like, yeah, he's like, oh, I find myself wavering in my course. I need advice, Father. And he goes, oh, okay. What is the nature of your work, my son? And Sin Eater tells him, righting wrongs, Father. Wrongs done by important people in important places that only I can see. But I'm afraid no one will understand. And he's just like going through like this whole thing. He's like, my son, you must always do what you believe to be right. Like, I love the writing here. You believe to be right. You know,
Sure.
must be true of yourself and your beliefs. Our Savior taught us the importance of this. Of course, we also know that you must sometimes pay a heavy price for your beliefs. But if you truly believe in your cause, then you owe it to yourself to pursue your destiny. And Sin Eater goes, thank you, Father. I needed to hear that. I will do what I know to be right. And he goes, of course, you must not harm others in yours, my son. What was that sound? And then you just hear, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. And in a blam to end the next issue.
I don't care if you believe in religion or not. It's probably bad karma to shoot a priest in the confessional.
It is.
I'm just
It
saying.
is. But again,
Yeah.
I love the way this issue ends because he's like, I really needed to hear that.
Yeah.
He's like, of course, but it's just like a what's that sound? And it doesn't even need to make it on the page
No.
for you to know what is
No.
happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's the bless. He goes, bless you, Father, for you have
You
sinned.
have sinned, yeah.
And then that's where it is.
Yeah.
So our next issue, he who is without sin. We'll speed it up a little bit.
Oh, you're fine. Reverend Bernard Fenn.
Who, I guess the Sin Eater does take requests.
He was
Saying
known
ass.
for his public spiritedness and outspokenness on prison reform.
There you go. And we get like a cut in of like all the reports of everybody just kind of around town, all of our different participants in the story so far, like watching this happen. There's also like this little side story that I don't understand where it goes. So I'm not going to, of like these burglaries that are happening, but what the burglaries are, or is it's this guy that's dressed up like Santa. Maybe it pays off later issues.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get to it. I'm sure that's probably what it is. But there's this guy who dresses up as Santa, and he like knocks on the kids' windows and convinces them to let him in. And while they do, he goes,
That
and he
doesn't
steals
pay
stuff.
off in any of these issues?
Not of these four. I'm hoping it does after.
It does seem weird, right? It seems like it's forced in there.
Well, yeah, but it only shows up in like 2 pages. So I do feel like it probably does later, just not for our story. And he steals stuff while they're in. Anyway, Spider-Man decides to go and pay Kingpin a visit to try to get any ideas of like who Sin Eater could be. And Kingpin tells him, like, that's funny, Daredevil kind of had the same thought too. He came and visited me too. But he's like, he goes, I have no problem though. I'll go to the police and tell them like for trespassing, like I don't have anybody that this would be. Like, you know me. He essentially like tells him that, like, it's
Right.
not me. I think that what you do is sometimes you need to go knock on a few front doors and figure out, do some detective work yourself.
I sometimes forget that Kingpin is in this same world that Spider-Man is in.
Yeah.
Because he's so tied to Daredevil.
Daredevil now, though, but
Yeah.
he has always been a big Spider-Man, like, villain.
Yeah.
More so, I would say. And I do love, and he goes, also, you might want to learn some points of subtlety from your friend Daredevil. He merely knocked on the front door when he tells him when he leaves, which I love that too, instead of like breaking in. But Matt Murdock has gone to Josie's bar, which is in the series. You might know that's where they drink a lot at
So
Josie's.
it's in Hell's Kitchen?
It is in Hell's Kitchen. But he's there and he's like, all right, guys, I'm here. I need to know if anybody knows anything about the guy who took out a priest. And they all these big guys are like, well, who's asking for information? They kind of turn on Matt, and Matt uses his skills to beat everybody up. Oh, that was out of order. To kind of beat everybody up there. And when like he's done, he's like, all right, who's next? And they're like, no, we don't want any. I'm telling you, like, that's not our type. We don't have anything. None of us know about the Sin Eater guy. But if you get this scumbag, like, give him one for us too, man. Like, we're not, like, the crooks there are telling, like, we're not in on this.
Yeah.
Spider-Man still breaks through too in the same place and goes through and beats them all up again. And somebody brings up, though, to point out that I haven't seen Spider-Man kind of on this level since the last time, and I know this is another story from before, where he was searching out the master planner. Like they're they want to bring up the fact that this is a more enraged Spider-Man. Like he's kind of had enough of this, and he wants answers.
The suit fits this Spider-Man.
Very much
You know what
so.
I mean? Like the black suit fits
the
it
black
very
suit.
much so, yeah.
So he goes and he hunts down and he shakes like a couple criminals to try to find answers, and he doesn't get anything. And that's where he goes. Then he decides to take a different approach. As like Kingpin said, I'm going to knock on somebody's front door. And Spider-Man knocks on a door, and it's this little girl who answers. And he goes, is your daddy here? And she's like, Daddy, the guy with the bug on his chest is here to see you. And the guy's kind of like, what? And he's like, come on. We're going to go have a little chat, Gerald. We just know this guy's name's Gerald.
This guy has some crazy-ass red hair.
He does. Gerald. And the guy's like, okay, just not in front of the kid,
And
please.
a Coke spoon hanging around his neck.
And a Coke spoon hanging around his neck. You're right.
Jeez.
And he's like, just not in front of the kid. And he's like, all right, that's fine. We won't do it here, Gerald. And the girl's just like, Daddy, where are you going? And Spider-Man goes, on an outing, hun. We'll be right back before you know it. And just like leaves with him. Right? Yeah. Spider-Man takes Jared Jablonski here.
Jared Jablonski.
Who we find out, as Spider-Man tells him.
Why are all these bad guys Polish?
I don't know. But Spider-Man tells him, he's like, man, I heard on the news the other day, Jerry, about how you beat that drug rap.
Yeah.
Man, and I said to myself, Jerry deserves to go out and celebrate a win. But you're such a hard guy to find, man. And, you work so hard, you wouldn't have let me do it else. So I had to force you out on this trip.
Yeah.
And, he's just sitting there. Gerald is just covering his face. And he's like, why would you bring me here, man?
Well, he's basically bringing him there to show
because it's
him.
all the hired gun. This is where all the criminals, hang out.
So now they all think that he's, snitching with Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he goes, why'd you bring me? Sure. He goes, I've even waltzed it with some of these guys here lately, so they're not going to mess with us.
Yeah.
He knows that he's beat a few of them up here too. And he's like, of course, though, they might go after some of my friends or anything to make an example after I leave. Maybe like a guy like you. And he's like, me? And he's like, you got a real bad stammer there, Jerry. You should probably get that looked at. Spider-Man here is kind of a dick.
Jerry.
Yeah. But he goes, and yes, we're pals, aren't we, Jerry? I've been to your home. And he's saying this rather loudly, too. He's
Sure.
like, I've been to your home. I've seen your lovely little Susie. He's like, heck, we're practically related. And
Yeah,
Gerald's like, come on, man, for pity's sake, keep your voice down. He's like, well, I'm glad we had this chat. All right, I'll be seeing you around, pal. And he's just going to leave him. And that's where he's like, wait a minute, you can't just leave me here. And he's like, no, why not? Look at these guys. I think, he goes, they think you're my chum. If I leave or you leave, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what he was, yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's kind of what I want. Sorry. And he goes, okay. I'm just the middleman, because he tells him, tell me about or he goes, gee, dead like those kids you siphon drugs to, is what Spider-Man tells him.
Yikes.
He's like, I'm just the middleman. I'll finger the big man for you. And he's like, I'm not the DA. Besides, I want the Sin Eater. And Jerry's like, what? The guy who killed the priest, the cop, and the judge? I don't know anything about that. I swear. And he's like, all right, nice seeing you, Jerry. He's like, no, please don't leave. I swear I don't know anything about Sin Eater. I swear on my daughter's life. And he's like, fine, whatever, Jerry. Just go tell the cops whatever you want. And he just goes to, and he takes him to the cops still.
Yeah.
He's using whatever means to get information, but he's not getting any information.
Yeah, he's very un-Spider-Man-ly like.
Yes. What we do get is back at the Daily Bugle, Sin Eater does show up, and he's looking for Jameson. And while he's there, he's like, where's Jameson? I want Jonah Jameson, or she dies. And he grabs Marla, who is Jonah's wife, who's there.
Right.
Robbie, trying to be brave,
Oh, that's
goes,
his wife?
yeah, Marla
I didn't
is.
know that.
I don't know if that's her there. No, I think that is. Betty. Yeah. So Marla is up there with Betty, and because that's who's been staying with her at
Where's
Jonah's
Archie?
house. Betty's married to Ned.
Oh.
But Robbie, trying to be brave, goes, I'm Jonah Jameson, son. Don't hurt her. He steps up
Yeah.
pretending to be
Yeah.
him. So, and he goes, why don't you put that down? Here's the thing. It's the 80s, so his picture's not everywhere. So you might believe that is. You
Sure.
don't know what he looks like.
Sure.
So he's like, why don't you put the gun down? I can help you. And he goes, I'm not your son, sinner. And so while Robbie's being brave, Peter takes one of the giant rolls from the typewriter and throws it and boom, hits him in the head for it. And they go and they tie up the Sin Eater here, and they take the mask off, and they realize it's that guy with the glasses from earlier that we saw, wanting to confess.
It's John Lennon.
And it kind of looks like it. So takes him to the police station. where he lets them know that it was the voices in his head that told him to do it. He's like, I didn't want to do it at first, but, I had to, but then people died and I realized that had to be me, right? He's like, and then Daredevil shows up in the middle of this like interrogation and lets him in. And,
hello, I'm Daredevil.
yeah, and he's like, it's bad enough that I'm letting Spider-Man in on it, so at least he fought the guy. And Daredevil goes, I've encountered the suspect too, officer. Don't worry, I'll stay out of your way. Like, Daredevil wants to be there because
they don't like each other?
Who, Daredevil and Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Not right now.
Okay. I thought they got along for some reason.
So
they do at a certain point, though? Get along?
No, they do for sure by the end of this.
Okay.
While he's sitting there, Daredevil sitting in the room listening to him. I got distracted by something. Daredevil sitting in the room listening to it and hearing him talk about, like, Jameson was actually supposed to die tonight is what the guy tells him.
Yeah.
At his house. So I figured if I go early, like, it would be wrong and I'll be caught. And it worked out. Like, you guys caught me. So now the voices are done. Nobody else is going to die. And they get out of there.
Is that how voices in your head work?
Yeah. And Daredevil kind of looks at Spider-Man and goes, Spider-Man, can I talk to you privately? And Spider-Man's like, come on, just talk about it right now. He's like, now.
He says.
And they step outside, and Daredevil tells him, you've got a copycat on your hands. That's not Sin Eater. And Spider-Man's like, you're kidding. We caught him at the Bugle. And he's like, the rifle's the same, even has the same bend of where he hit me from. And he's like, I can't tell you why, but it's not the same guy.
I don't understand that. Why can't he tell people that he knows from the heartbeats?
I think he does tell him. He goes, his rifle's the same. Oh, he goes, how can I explain to Spider-Man? Oh, I don't know why he feels that. I don't know why he feels like he doesn't.
Maybe
need to
it's
explain
because he knows that Spider-Man would connect the dots and know that he knows
can't
he's
see,
Peter Parker
probably.
also.
I think Matt probably feels
Plus,
like that way.
does Spider-Man even know that Daredevil's blind?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, because there's a part.
That's what I thought.
Where they come in later where he hides his camera because he doesn't want Daredevil to see his camera.
Yeah. Okay.
But they go to the copycat's apartment. And as they're looking around, he's like, this guy's mess. Like, it doesn't seem right. And he goes, look, there's an apartment right next to it. And it looks like the door's been jimmied recently. Kind of. And he goes to open it. And it cracks open. And the apartment next to it is completely clean. And Spider-Man looks at some mail on the table. And he goes, this Con Ed bill, holy cow, this is Stan Carter's place. Stan's going to freak when he finds out he's been living next door to the... And Daredevil goes, Spider-Man? And Spider-Man looks over and goes, Sin Eater's gear in Stan's closet, but that's impossible. And Daredevil tells him, Greg's bed's on the other side of the wall. Like, Greg's already in a strained mental state. Probably
figured it out.
Probably heard the voices through the wall. Like, he has a diary in here. He's just talking, like Stan's talking to himself, like into the recorder. Daredevil goes, my guess is he heard Stan doing that, and that's the voices he's been hearing. Like, it's not him at all. And then that's where he goes, well, then if that means the next victim's supposed to be Jameson, and then Spider-Man's like, but Jameson's still in Florida, and they're putting it together. Oh, but he said it was supposed to be at home, and that if he showed up early, oh no, I got to tell Betty. So he tries to call the Bugle to warn Betty, but Betty's already left, and Betty's already at J. Jonah Jameson's house, where we get Jameson resident. Hello, Betty. And you see, Betty, you're in danger. Get Marlon. Get out. And it's yelling on the phone. And Betty, Sin Eater's still loose. He's coming to get you. Betty, get out. And we end with another, boom,
blam,
shot to the chair. So now our conclusion of the story.
She's obviously not in that chair.
She's not.
Yeah.
No. I do love, we get like, oh, hey, do you not know who Betty is? Here's a little introduction of Betty. Betty used to be one of Peter Parker's love interests.
Oh, I love how the art changed.
Yeah, it is a different...
Like it's retro looking.
They did that on purpose.
That's
because
cool.
To try to make it, since Betty's been around since the beginning. Yeah,
I get that.
Like, oh, Betty was a love interest, and then we fell out. And then we're still friends, but she's with Ned. She did get out just in time.
That's very cool.
It is. So our conclusion, there's a fight between Sin Eater and Betty. At first, Sin Eater's like, well, you got out of my blast in time. Obviously, you're touched by God, like you weren't meant to die.
Yeah.
Where's J. Jonah Jameson? And there's like a fight between them because she's like, he's in Florida. And Sin Eater goes, well, then you can give him the message yourself.
She stabs him in the leg.
She does.
Good
He goes,
for her.
like, I killed the judge. We get why he did all this. He goes, you can tell him I killed the priest I wanted to kill Jameson because he opposed mass vigilantes. I killed the priest because he opposed capital punishment.
But he didn't shoot the
I
deputy.
killed the judge because he coddled criminals.
Yeah.
And I killed Jean DeWolff because I felt like it.
Ooh.
And about that time,
Golly.
Betty grabs like a letter opener and stabs Sin Eater in the
Right
leg.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Spider-Man does show up, and he's able to beat the piss out of Sin Eater. And that's the thing. It's one of those things where he probably should have stopped, and he just keeps going because he feels like he's been so duped in this thing.
Yeah, sure.
This is the detective that he believed.
Well, and
he
that's the
was
last
leading
straw
him on.
also when you say I felt like it.
Exactly. And he's like trying to gather your strength to attack again. Forget about it. He's still just pummeling away at Stan. And he goes, you were laughing at me all along, right, Carter? Acted like a friend when I was just a sick joke. You're disgusting. And it has like the throwback to when they're in the car of him saying it's the quite unobvious nuts that you have to watch. And Carter just goes, I'm sorry. And he goes, sorry? You don't get to be sorry. And he's just still just beating the piss out of him again. Yeah. And he goes, tell it to the judge or to the priest, or better yet, tell it to Jean DeWolff. And Betty, through all of this, is kind of horrified by what she's watching Spider-Man there.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's horrified by what took place, but she's also horrified that this has turned Spider-Man into a vigilante.
And
basically.
so Daredevil shows up, and he's like, Spider-Man's heart's pounding like a trip hammer. He's like, I've never seen him like this brutal. And he goes, Spider-Man, back off. And Daredevil has to go and like grab. He's full mouse like grabbing Spider-Man. And he goes, it's not over. It's not going to be over until he's dead. And Daredevil essentially pushes Spider-Man off of him. And he goes, the only threat that's here right now is you.
Wow.
Spider-Man still doesn't take heed to this. And he's like, out of my way. And so Daredevil tells him, and he's like, if you want him, you got to come through me. And we see a thwam, and Daredevil flies out the window. And so Spider-Man's like, all right. He goes, this is between Carter and me, like not you. But he has no problem now at this point, like, hitting Daredevil. But Daredevil, in his smartness, has decided to ridicule and where does he goes? He goes, stuff it, whorehead. I have half a mind to, and he goes, half a mind is right. Like he just starts kind of like poking Spider-Man's buttons to get Spider-Man to chase after him. That's what he just wants to get him away from the situation. And so Peter follows. And I love this scene too, as they're in like, I'm assuming like Central Park trying to get after one another. And Daredevil throws his billy club to like hit Peter like we did earlier. Mm-hmm. And Peter catches it. He's like, come on, man. And don't think you can catch me from behind with those billy clubs of yours. And he hits it and he goes, my spider sense is still tingling. Wait. And about that time, Daredevil just punches him.
He just clocks him.
I love it though, because it's like he's cocky Spider-Man when he doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But Daredevil ends up kind of knocking him out. And he's like, incredibly, a dozen punches, and he's barely out. And he's like, I just got to leave him here until he comes through. He just needs to calm down. It's
he puts him in a
what
tree.
he leaves him there in a tree, just not down on the ground for everybody to kind of like calm down until he feels, he goes, does Spider-Man feel too much? Or Daredevil questions like, does Spider-Man feel too much about this, or do I feel too little? Then?
Yeah, sure.
We get cut-ins then of the news talking about how it was like this police detective who is the one who is the killer. And we get a lot of like, you can't trust anybody.
What a great reporter this guy is. He says, Mrs. Leeds, how do you feel about being alive?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, and she doesn't want to talk to him.
What a great question.
And she's like, oh, you were threatened. And he's like, threatened? He tried to kill me.
Hey, Ms. Leeds, why aren't you dead?
What happens, though, is J. Jonah Jameson and Ned get back, and Jonah's just asking, like, what did we miss? And Peter, like, fills them all in. He's like, oh, by the way, Spider-Man saved both of your wives, too, while y'all were out. So maybe you owe Spider-Man, like, a debt of gratitude or something. And they're both kind of just in shock as he gets off, like, the elevator. And Peter goes, I wonder, like, when they'll realize that was their floor. Mm-hmm. But it's just, like, two guys that, are like, they don't know how to deal with that. We get some, like, man-on-the-street reporting that Peter has to do, and it's a lot of, very good points. It has it where the man on the street's interviewing, asking about, like, how do you feel about trusting police? You find them less trustworthy now that Sin Eater is, turned out to be a detective. And there's some very good, like, poignant points through here. Poignant points, huh? There's another little side story here. Ernie is deciding that he's tired of feeling like a little guy anymore. So he's going into the
This
city to
is
do
your
what he
death
wants
wish,
to.
Ty.
Yep. So he's going into the city to do whatever he wants to. And he's traveling with his gun in hand. And there's these, teens that kind of come in. They're harassing him a little bit. Not too bad. But it's
Sure.
like, pardon me, good sir. We have a sick friend and we need to buy medicine. A man of your years would understand the importance of this, but the medicine's very expensive. And we need as much as you can, preferably. Like, they're harassing him a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But he just goes, holy, and he goes, I have only one thing for you, but I'm more than happy to share with it. And he does. He shoots at the kids, and he gets off the train as they're leaving to head to the Trade Center. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was looking. There was a subway shooting. I thought it was in the 80s. 1984, New York City subway shooting. Bernard Goetz, that's the one that shot the guy who was supposedly coming after him.
Oh.
Yeah, Bernard Goetz shot 4 youths on a New York City subway train in Manhattan after they allegedly tried to rob him.
So that's exactly like this.
All 4 victims survived, though one, Daryl Cabby, was paralyzed and suffered brain damage and had a result. There's a great documentary about that on Netflix about the Bernard Goetz thing. But I remember that being big headlines. And
that makes a lot of sense.
And it was right at the same time as Death Wish 3 and all that stuff. So yeah, all of this is playing to the time of the actually was on the planet when this came out.
Exactly. And so then we get back to we kind of get that back. You asked about the Nick Fury thing.
Yeah.
A SHIELD agent is at the police station. They're waiting to move Stan from the police station to Rikers. And there's an angry mob forming outside.
Could that doctor look any more like a Nazi doctor?
Kind of. Well, there's a SHIELD agent there at meeting with the head of the police to let him know, hey, the thing that's going to make this worse is he might have an insanity plea on his hand. See, when he was with SHIELD, we knew that, we were doing R&D, research and development, on the extraordinary strength gained from such drugs as PCP or angel dust. It uses, so we fiddled around with the chemistry of it, and we were testing it on people. Stan and several others were injected with the modifications, and it worked. About the strength, because the cop's this is frightening as hell, and he's yeah, R&D decided it was too. The strength and endurance would stay, but then the side effects were just too numerous and unpredictable. Stan didn't really take that too well, when we took him off of it too, and it shows he had gotten violent before.
He wanted more PCP.
Yeah, and he goes, but we thought that after all those drugs left his system and him not showing any of those signs, that he was good to be released out into captivity again, kind of. And so the cop's so great. So we have a legit, he has an actual insanity plea here of what you guys did to him. And now I have people who want his head, and I'm going to have to deal with this. I don't know how to make everybody happier to make it all work. But the angry mob is forming. You can't. The angry mob's forming, and they've decided that they're going to try to use cops in the front to distract, and they're going to take him out the back. Well, the angry mob still notices him. Or still notices them taking Stan out the back. And so they do, and they overtake the cops. And Jean's stepdad, Carl of all people, finds Stan and is starting to attack and beat up Stan while they're all there. Well, Daredevil realizes, we need to at least take, he's due his time in court. We can't let mob justice isn't the way for it to happen either.
Yeah.
We can't just let the mob kill this guy. So Daredevil decides to go down there and save Stan, to get him out of the mob and where he needs to go. And when he comes down to do that, though, the mob turns on Daredevil then too.
Yeah.
Because they see him as not trying to, stop them. He's trying to help him. Well, Daredevil's looking for help, and Spider-Man's just looking at him like he's an idiot. He's I'm closing my eyes. I don't want to watch.
Yeah.
But as it becomes, I'm afraid I'll go down and rescue Carter. Or he goes, I can't tell if it's I'm afraid I'll go down and rescue Carter, or if it's because I'll enjoy seeing him get his reward. Let Daredevil save him. He's so wild about Carter. I wash my hands of this, is what he's telling him. Spider-Man's just I'm done with this. And Daredevil's Spider-Man, yelling out for him. He's I need help, desperately. And Spider-Man's just Uncle Ben, Gwen, Captain Stacy, now Jean. I've lost so many loved ones to criminals. I use my power to protect innocents, not animals like Sin Eater. If I did that, then I wouldn't be worthy of the name. And the whole time of Spider-Man, and Daredevil finally yells out, Peter, to get his voice.
Right.
Here's the thing. The whole argument that Daredevil has been making against Spider-Man in this is he's like, you have that thought, but don't everybody look, or doesn't everybody look at you as a criminal?
Yeah.
Don't they already like,
Yeah,
do you not think if you got caught in for something, you would like your just due of being like, guys, that's not how it is. He's like just trying to, he's like, I get your point. But so he calls out and Spider-Man, it was out of the way. Spider-Man decides that he does want to go down there and like protect him after all. He goes to rescue.
Well, it's a little
Daredevil.
Self-serving, because I mean, he shouted out Peter,
and he goes, a name called out as a last resort, a name that is unneeded or that is unheeded by all save the man to whom it was addressed, Peter Parker, the spectacular Spider-Man. And he comes down and he rescues Daredevil and he stops Jean's stepdad from killing Stan there. Because he's just like, yeah, I know that he's garbage, but my chum here won't leave without the man who you're you have your fingerprints wrapped around his throat. Because much as it hurts, in like Spider-Man's size, and he's like, I'm supposed to be one of the good guys. So he's like, he saves them both.
Yeah.
And like they take him and they go off to Rikers. And while they're there, he goes, no harm done, DD. Because like, he apologizes about yelling out his name.
Yeah, sure.
He's like, no harm done, DD. Although I never expected the man without fear to panic. And he's like, no fear. That's me. And desperation. Oh yeah, but desperation. I have loads of it. Yeah. And that's where Spider-Man goes, so Peter, huh? And Daredevil goes, yep. And in case you're wondering, my handle is Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
And that's where he's like, you're kidding.
And he goes, holy crap, you're blind.
Yeah. And he goes, I mean, it's that. And he's like, let's go someplace and talk about this. So they go back to the apartment. There's a joke where Matt's like, oh, you have a nice apartment. And Peter's like, you really are blind.
Yeah.
But we get a phone call from Aunt May where Aunt May tells Peter about Ernie shot those 3 kids.
Yeah.
And he's under arrest. Why? And he goes, 3 teenagers. The wounds aren't serious. The boys are in the hospital. They're all going to survive. And Ernie turned himself in, said it was in self-defense, but the boys weren't armed.
Yeah.
He's in terrible trouble. He can't afford a lawyer. And about that time, Matt grabs the phone and goes, Miss Parker, Matt Murdock, I couldn't help but overhear. And Matt's like, I'm not going to do it, but I know somebody, like, I'll be able to help Ernie get some help with this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he goes, no, it won't be me, but I'll, help to get him the fairest trial that he can be. And he goes, that's all I asked Peter now, Miss Parker. As I was saying, can I? And he's like, okay, I'll call you, mate. Like, there's a nice, like, they have this little moment.
Right, sure.
And that's where it kind of ends of like Daredevil and Peter finally seeing like kind of eye to eye and being on the same page. And that is where it closes out.
Well, not eye to eye, but yeah.
Yeah, on the same page. But that is where it closes out then, the death of Jean DeWolff.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Not crazy about the Jets shirt he's wearing the whole time.
Well, he's in New York.
Yeah. Okay.
But there you go. That does it for us on this week's episode.
That's like an actual adult story.
It was, and it's really good. That is my favorite Spider-Man comic, and in memory of Peter David, I wanted to cover something that he wrote that is really good.
Damn fine job.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, as always, for taking the time out to listen. Don't worry, Wednesdays is a lot sillier, and it's a lot funny, and Mike will have jokes and a lot of dumb stuff to say about it. So
you don't know me.
That's fine. Thank you, as always, for taking the time out to listen, to watch. We appreciate it. Make sure to check out all the other great podcasts on the Rogue Media Network of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Hey, got a con.
Frozen, heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.